8 years ago, this was the trailer that drawn me to playing Warframe. When I saw the Oberon Prime trailer, I was really amazed by the Warframe, and the trailer was pure dopamine boost for me, as it's a mix of somewhat a tanky paladin character with insane ninja movement. I was sold out by the trailer, and when I started playing Warframe, I promised myself that I will get Oberon Prime first. Well, I ended up getting Frost Prime as my first Prime Warframe, and I think Oberon Prime was my 5th Prime Warframe in the game. To be honest, the gameplay of Oberon wasn't the same from the trailer back then. It's true, I was kind of disappointed because the other 4 Prime Warframes I had back then was far superior than Oberon Prime. I got Frost Prime, Ash Prime, Chroma Prime, and Saren Prime before Oberon Prime. And back then, most of these Warframes are god tier and really fun to play with. I will not sugarcoat anything and say the truth that I find Oberon very weak back then. It's like he is trying to be the mix of multiple Warframes, but end up being mediocre at best. It was really disappointing, but fast forward in 2025, finally, Oberon is now a god tier Warframe, and as a matter of fact, I plan to replicate the same trailer, wherein I will replicate that ninja paladin wielding a Silva and Aegis Prime and destroying enemies. The only problem, though, is that the synergy is not well suited in the modern era of Warframe. Don't get me wrong, Silva and Aegis Prime can deal good damage given with the right mod setup. In fact, everything in this game can almost be great when modded the right way. But the modern era of Warframe is all about kill speed, and I wanted to cosplay as Oberon being a paladin with good kill speed. Enter the mace-like melee weapon named Sancti Magistar. Take note that the regular Magistar will work, but for this combo, we are better with the Incarnon variant as it will deal massive damage. In my case, I got the Sancti Magistar, and let me share with you what evolution I got for this Oberon synergy. Before we continue, I humbly ask for your support by simply liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Thank you so much, and let's continue this guide. Now, the Incarnon form of this melee weapon is really great for this combo, as it gives more melee damage and initial combo. As you might guessed it, and it's pretty obvious on the clips I am showing, that we will be using Melee Slam for this combo. Hence, the initial combo from this weapon is so good so we can get the maximum combo counter for huge damage. On its second evolution, I choose the Edge of Justice, which grants bonus attack speed. It's really not that important in a heavy slam build like this, but the other perk is more useless for this combo. Now this is the most important part of the melee, as its third evolution has a perk called Seismic Slam that grants more radius to our heavy slam. So far, this is the most important perk for our synergy. Finally, I choose the Critical Parallel to get more critical chance and damage multiplier, which ramps up our damage to red crit numbers. Again, a true paladin build for Oberon should be holding a mace and a shield, and there are a few weapons perfect for this synergy. But as I have said earlier, I want the synergy to perform well and get good kill speed. The slam attack of the Incarnon Magistar allows us to eliminate a crowd of enemies easily. It really pairs well with Oberon's armor stripping, as with one Reckoning cast, enemies will be stripped of their armor, leaving them more vulnerable to our melee weapon. In terms of the mod setup for the Incarnon Magistar, I go with my usual combination of critical and heavy slam setup. Now, if you can get a critical chance, critical damage with initial combo Riven with your Magistar, then the build will be so much better. It's great also to have a Riven mod on this melee, as it got a high Riven disposition, which means you'll get higher stat values from it. By the way, in the clips I have shown you earlier, I was using Primed Fever Strike on the build. This was just a test build, as I normally use Seismic Wave on this heavy slam combo. Take note that this mod increases the damage of melee slam attacks, including those from stance combos. This damage increase is multiplicative with base damage mods like Pressure Point. To make it short, the mod adds a significant boost to the damage of ground slams, including the area of effect portion. Finally, the stance doesn't matter, as we will be spamming heavy slam on this setup. While in terms of arcane, I have melee exposure for the added corrosive damage. Mind you, the corrosive from this arcane will always be available for this synergy, as we will constantly use Oberon's Reckoning to get health orbs strip armor, and crowd control. Now that we are done with the weapon, let's proceed with my Oberon build for this synergy. The main focus of this build is to have a lot of range so we can lift a lot of enemies with our Reckoning skill. This is the main focus of our synergy, as we need the armor strip of Reckoning to increase the damage that we deal with our slam attack. At the same time, more enemies affected means that we will get more health orb drops on the ground when enemies die. And mind you, health orbs is the best fuel for Oberon's survivability right now. Not because it can heal the Warframe, but because of his new passive that grants invulnerability charges. This new Righteous Negation passive will activate once Oberon picks up a health or universal orb. And it's like Revenant's Mesmer skin, wherein the charge will get consumed to negate all damage taken. Basically, we would want a lot of health orbs in the ground, and having high range in your Oberon build is one half of the equation. The other half is Arcane Universal Fallout, that grants a chance to spawn a universal orb once an enemy affected by radiation proc dies. The chance is really low, but in real mission, the Arcane is pretty reliable, as Oberon's Reckoning does deal radiation procs, and with the high range we have on this build, we can easily apply radiation using his 4th skill. If you don't like Helminth builds, by the way, then you can also use Oberon's Hallowed Ground to apply radiation procs, which makes Arcane Universal Fallout even better for this build. Also, I have Equilibrium in my build so that every health and universal orb can also give energy to my Warframe. This helps me maintain renewal, which I use not only for the health regeneration, but also for the armor it provides. Now you might wonder before why I tested Primed Fever Strike on the build, and this is because I wanted to proc Toxin somehow in my heavy slam and use the effect of Mecha Set. Mecha Set, or more specifically, Mecha Pulse Armor bonus provides a huge buff to Oberon, as first of all, the armor stacking you get with Mecha Pulse is pretty insane. Reckoning has a new mechanic now that grants armor bonus per enemy you affect, and this will be added to your total armor values. Now, if you have Mecha Pulse active, then you will get more armor values. This means that you can get 90% damage reduction or more from armor bonus alone. And by the way, this will also increase your energy pool thanks to the Arcane Battery that I have in my build. If you are using other weapons that can proc the effect of Mecha Set constantly, then the better this synergy is, and in fact, you can remove Primed Flow in the build to make room for more range or whatever mod that you deem useful in your build. But for the case of this slam synergy, Primed Fever Strike can be a good option, but don't expect that it will proc all the time. You will get the Mecha Pulse armor buff bonus most of the time, but not as constant with something that can proc Toxin heavily. The good thing about this slam synergy, though, is you don't need to find the marked target, and you just simply slam, and eventually the marked target will die, and you get the buff. Also, I would like to add that I have 5 purple Archon shards for this build, with melee critical damage increase. Honestly, this build can be so much better if Digital Extremes haven't nerfed the slam meta. This can easily reach 100 million damage, but since they deem it as too broken, they yeeted the combo, and we are left with just 2 to 4 million damage doing Bunny Hop Slam right now. It's still a good damage, especially that we can strip armor to increase the effectiveness of this synergy, but still, it would be epic to see how much fun this combo is with the slam meta. Nonetheless, it can still kill Steel Path enemies easily. Finally, I would like to talk about my Helminth choice. So a lot of you might be wondering why the hell I have Silence on this build when this is not a finisher type combo. Well, there are 2 reasons. First of all, the build I have doesn't have duration mod. I can put it on the build, but I don't need it really, as this Oberon build is more of a caster, armor strip, and survivability setup. It's not a buffer type, so I just end up not using any duration mods. Anyway, I can still maintain my renewal flawlessly with health orbs, so I really don't mind any duration at all. Silence is a perfect buffer, since with low duration, I can still have 21 seconds of the skill, and it does provide more slam damage thanks to the stealth melee multiplier. For those new players, in Warframe, the stealth melee multiplier is a powerful hidden bonus that rewards players for striking enemies before they notice you. When you hit an unalerted enemy with a melee attack, the game automatically multiplies your damage by 8. That means if your melee normally deals 1,000 damage, a stealth strike would deal around 8,000. This multiplier is applied to any melee weapon, whether you're using normal swings, heavy attacks, or finishers, as long as the enemy hasn't entered an alert state. Once they're aware of you, the bonus disappears, so staying undetected is key. To take full advantage of this, invisibility abilities are your best friend. Warframes like Loki, Ashe, Avara, and Octavia can keep enemies unaware for long periods, letting you chain stealth hits one after another. However, it's not limited to stealth, as a Savage Silence setup can provide you with this stealth damage multiplier. After a brief delay, enemies that do not have line of sight with a player will become susceptible to stealth damage multipliers from melee attacks as long as line of sight remains broken and the player does not come into direct physical contact with the enemy. Now this works about 2 to 3 seconds, and with Savage Silence, it can further be pushed to 6 seconds as the augment will inflict some sort of a hinder animation to enemies, which also gives time for stealth damage multiplier to work. The 5 to 6 seconds window is really enough for you to slam enemies to oblivion. Hence, you will see an increase from the usual 2 million per hit to around 4 to 5 million damage per hit on enemies that got yeeted by your slam attack. Now, I haven't added this to the combo, but you can further push the critical damage of your slam by equipping Magus Aggress in your operator. The critical damage boost does work with the Magistar, as thanks to some spaghetti coating, the melee weapon is treated as a heavy blade. Simply go operator mode, then press your melee attack key to get the critical damage boost. After that, you get 4 boosted heavy slam, and just repeat the process to get the buff again. With Magus Aggress, Savage Silence, and fully stripping the armor of enemies, you will see around 11 million to even 20 million damage on enemies with this synergy. I know it's low, but this is more than enough in Steel Path levels. And the synergy is really fun, since you become close to being immortal, you can armor strip, and you can deal massive damage. So, I think I have given you all the details for this combo. If you're still here, thanks for watching the whole video, and I hope to see you again in my next guide.